Hey everybody, can you hear me all the way in the back? Thumbs up from the back, excellent. Hi everybody, my name's Pam Dingle. I am your moderator for this track. The track is called Usable Identity, and I'm also the first speaker. So it's sort of the nepotism track, if you will. You know, found someone I thought could do a good job and put him in the slot. So for those of you who don't know me, I work in the office of the CTO at Ping Identity. I work for Patrick Harding, our CTO. And we do a lot of work with standards, a lot of work looking at strategy and vision, and trying to figure out where the world of identity goes. So hopefully you'll see that come through in this presentation. I have my other two speakers are here right now. We have Nishant Kaushik and Andrew Nash. And I'll give them some introductions when their time comes, but first it's the Pam show. And by the way, I've had a lot of coffee, and I do mean a lot of coffee. So I hope that's okay. If some of you are feeling uncomfortable, you could sort of make, relaxing motions, and I'll try and simmer down a little bit. But oh well. All right, so my presentation is Knowing versus Asking, Innovation in User Recognition. All right, here we go. All right, when I started at Ping almost 5 years ago, day one, I went to log in, brand new, eyes wide as saucers, green as grass. Here's what I saw. Username, password, please. Day two, I saw the same thing. Still doesn't know who I am, still doesn't care who I am, expects me to tell the system who I am. Several years later, it still doesn't know who I am. Still, hasn't recognized the fact that I have essentially logged in 5 times a day on the same computer, in the same network of my house, of my geolocation, right? There are 20 different ways for it to recognize that I really am Pam Dingle, or at least it's highly likely that I'm Pamela Dingle, and nobody's bothered to do a thing, right? Hey, stranger, how you doing? That's the answer, right? So this brings me to an assessment of the state of our industry, especially in enterprise. Especially in enterprise. We have, of necessity, developed very useful encapsulated systems that are stateless systems. Like I said, of necessity, we've done this, okay? Because that's how they scale. So we are very good at authenticating and forgetting, right? Of setting some state and then passing the ball off and forgetting, right? That's what we do. We authenticate, we forget, right? And we can chain that authenticate, forget. We can chain all those loosely coupled systems and keep the state as stateless as possible. We have been extremely successful in doing this. And not only just doing this within our own little paradigm, but crossing domains and still keeping that stateless encapsulation in place, right? So we have really done some great work at compartmentalization. We've really thought it through. Identity standards, it's kind of what we're all here for, allows us to have this kind of isolationist policy, essentially. However, this is what happens when I try to log in, okay? Bugfishface, who are you? I don't know who you are. Prove yourself, quick, right? That's what our systems do. So what do after the Bugfishface, right? They make us climb some kind of obstacle, perform some kind of feat, Herculean feat, to prove we are who we are, right? When that obstacle is overcome, then one of two things is going to happen, right? If we're crossing a domain, right, or moving to another context outside of our bubble, we're going to get a token. We're staying within our local security context, we're going to get a cookie, okay? So that's it. That is that's our industry, right? Bugfishface, obstacle, token, cookie. Rinse and repeat, right? And what happens when this cookie expires? Bugfishface! Yay! So when I think of how many Bugfish faces we have, that I've personally experienced over my career, it's kind of a boggling amount, right? This is state of the art, right here. However, we're getting forced to do other things now, right? We are our entire world is changing to purpose-driven devices in some ways, and certainly narrow interface devices, right? So have you ever tried to enter a password on a Nest, right? Just get all the letters around the little dial, and yeah, it's not pleasant, right? So what this has done is driven us towards a strong, strong desire to type as little as possible, to interact, and to lower the barriers of the obstacles that immediately follow the bug-eyed fish face. Right? So this is a problem now. I mean, how many years? 10 years since what, well, for me, maybe 1995, since I've been climbing these obstacles. And all of a sudden now, people care about how tall they are. So this is what we have today. We have what I would call the stranger flow, right? So there's a lot of bug-eyed fish face in there, right? Oh, I don't know who you are. Oh, look, a cookie. Ah. Oh, I don't know who you are. Oh, look, a cookie. It's like the movie Memento. Have you ever seen that movie? That's what it's like, right? We react, we forget. We react, we forget, right? It's very unnatural in a lot of ways, right? So here's my hypothesis that I'd like to put forward to you is that we're missing something, right? So we got the bug-eyed fish face, we got the obstacle, we got the token, we got the cookie. We need one more thing. We need a name tag, right? So what this is, to me, is a hint. We need a little piece of self-asserted data that says, you know, I'm Patty Bouvier. You might not know me, but that's who I am. Could be wrong, could be a complete fiction, right? Or it could be right. So what that means, what I'm really talking about, is a hint. Okay, so this is information that is probably true, right? But it's not authoritative, right? So it could be that someone's trying to fool you by putting on that Patty Bouvier name tag, or it could be that Patty Bouvier has been walking around with that name tag on for the whole darn conference. And you think about what those name tags do. You think about what all those badges that we all have hanging around our neck does, right? It's an icebreaker, right? It smooths over the ceremony. You go to meet someone, you know you've met him before. And you're talking to him, and then your eyes sort of slowly go down to the badge, right? Oh, yeah, Paul, how's it going? Yeah, right? It lets you, it lets you make a leap, right? Instead of having to go through the whole, what was your name again? Right? It lets you smooth that over. Now, it's not to say that somebody couldn't have stolen someone else's badge, right? And they're actually trying to sneak their way into the conference, and then there's going to be a big awkward scene, right? When you assume their name is the thing that's hanging on their badge, and in fact, they're a totally different person, right? Because you've totally given away the fact that you don't actually know their real name by calling them someone else's name, right? So there are consequences to getting it wrong. On the other hand, getting it wrong teaches you things too, and that's very, very important. So these are the guys who are driving things, right? These guys have figured it out already, right? You don't get asked who you are. You don't have obstacles every time you use one of these fit-for-purpose apps like a Fitbit or a Stick and Find, right? They've already figured out. They can calculate that probability of who you're going to be the next time you open your phone. It's not rocket science, right? So here's the thing, right? The stranger flow is important, and there are certainly security contexts where the most important thing is to assume nothing and to make, to go right back to first principles and make everybody prove everything all the way through. But it doesn't have to be every time anymore. We've kind of gotten better at a bunch of things. We're connected now. We have things like geolocation. We have devices that aren't shared by families of 7, at least in first world countries, right? There's a whole bunch of really interesting factors at play, right, that let us do this. It lets us raise the base level of what a flow might look like in a case where you have just enough information to make some assumptions, to give them a bit of slack, right, to break the ice. So maybe at the very beginning of that little thing, maybe the user selects their own security context to start with, right, with something like a chooser. Hey, guess what? It's first thing in the morning, but look, there's 4 people who use this computer, and Patty is one of them, and I'm Patty, right? So instead of stranger and fish face all the way through, It's probability. You're probably Patty, right, when that first RP session expires. You're probably Patty when the IDP expires. If you're not, no harm, no foul, right? Because the only thing that a hint does is populates half of the login form. You still got to type your password. You still have to complete the obstacle. You just don't have to climb 50 feet anymore. You can only just climb the last 10 feet to get over the obstacle. So yes, what I'm saying is that it's time to rethink all those god-awful white hat, requirements that you have to obfuscate absolutely everything all the time, right? So I don't know if I'm allowed to tell this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. When I started at Ping, I don't know how many of you use the Ping Federate admin console, but it runs on a different port. And when you go to that port, it's like 9999. You go to that port, and it gives you a 404, right? And I went to Patrick, our CTO, and I said, why? Right? Why can't I know the port, I can't remember the path. Why would I possibly not be able to go to the root of port 9999 and be helped? And the answer was they had a white hat review, and some guy said that it was better, right, if it was a 404 because it was going to defeat a hacker. So really, because hackers don't read documentation, right? Either you're a bloody idiot, and yes, we have defeated you, or I don't know, how to find a path, and you can bypass this stupid usability disaster that we created. So yeah, don't tell anyone I said that story. But here's the thing. You can absolutely say stranger flow has to exist forever because security, right? I don't think it doesn't stand up anymore. Because in fact, the benefits you get from hints way outweigh any disadvantage of sort of the reason they did it is because you don't want people just throwing random usernames at pages, right? I'm Patty, I'm this person, I'm this person, I'm this person, looking for some kind of hint or some kind of leaked information, right? But I'll tell you, if you start throwing hints at a server these days, the servers are going to notice, right? And there is as much information that comes through from a fake hint as comes through from a real hint, right? It means a lot. You can make very interesting decisions based on either good hints or bad hints. And here's the thing. This is what we're doing. We're doing this already. Okay? Everything we talk about risk-based authentication. We're talking about analytics, right? We're talking about threat modeling and throttling and all these things. All of these things are, in fact, collecting state in what used to be a stateless system, right? We finally figured out that authenticate and forget is problematic. So we're already starting to authenticate and remember, authenticate and write audit logs, authenticate and talk to your security information and event management system, right? There are vendors, right? Some of them are at this conference who specialize in helping you remember, helping you have context. So this is not something new, right? The difference is that most of the stuff we're doing today happens within a given domain, a given context. Why not have it happen across contexts? That's my question, right? So what exact tooling allows that kind of contextual collaboration across domains? Well, so from a usability perspective, there's two things that we're really talking about here. We're talking about a continuation flow and a bootstrap. So bootstrap is what I was talking about earlier, where Patty's just woken up. All her sessions are long dead. Maybe her computer's off. Maybe her browser is empty, right? No cookies, no tokens, nothing. All right? So that's one piece. That's more obviously known in our industry as IDP discovery. We'll talk about that more in a second. The second is continuation flow. So I've been logged in since 8 a.m. It's now 3. I've refreshed my identity 5 times, right? Pamela Dingle has had a session on this computer every day, all day, for all this time. How about one more session? Can you give me one more session? And by the way, it's probably also for Pamela Dingle. That's the continuation flow. Okay? So on the hint spectrum, there are lots of choices. Okay? There is something called a login hint. Okay? A login hint, as you'll see in a minute, is basically just pre-filling a username and a login form with the information a user would type anyway. Okay? It ranges all the way up to some stuff that's much more interesting, like the continuation flow of actually sending an ID token. So you get an ID token, you set a session for 6 hours. At the end of the 6 hours, you still have the ID token. It's no good, but it makes a darn good hint to pass back to the server so that they can issue a new ID token. Okay, so that's the stuff over here. Whoops. And this stuff down in red, it's arguable whether those are actually hints at all, because they get into the range of authenticated and authoritative hints. But you can see the spectrum, right? So you're going to send a little bit of data, maybe you're going to send a bit more data, or you're going to send data so important that you're actually going to refresh an access token based on it, right? It's just a spectrum. All right, so login hint. All you're doing is pre-filling a form. It's so simple, and it makes people's lives so much easier, right? To be able to graphically choose who they are or have a system deduce who they are compared to having to type that information in, right? All it is remember me. How many years have we had the remember me button, right? Remember me is single domain. It's a cookie, generally, right? All we're really talking about is remember me across domains. Easy. I have no idea how much time I have left. I'm at 25 minutes? All right, whoops. Okay, this is going to be fast then. I'm at 15. Oh, they told me 25. Whew. Okay, you were just about to see Rocket Pam. All right, that's all right. 15, 10 minutes left I can deal with. No, you don't want to see Rocket Pam. There's a lot of bouncing involved and stuff. All right, so you've got, yes, all right. Continuation flow then. Continuation flow is just picking up session data that already exists but has expired. So you don't just disregard it, you remember it, you go look at it. Is it expired? Yeah. Does it make a good hint? Yes. Right? So that could be as simple as a cookie, right? A user ID in a cookie. It could be a proprietary session cookie, right? Imagine your SM session cookie expires, but you pass it back anyway, right? It's still got data. It's a bearer token, really. It's got data in it. So just send it back and then allow that to be part of the context evaluation algorithm. All right, so clearly discovery is not new. And when I talk about a bootstrapping flow, I am talking about discovery. However, we've had a ton of change in discovery, right, in the last little while. And I'll tell you, it really sucks in enterprise, right? Discovery has never been good in enterprise. We've had common domain cookies, right? We've had drop-downs. Now that multi-tenant cloud platforms have come about, it's literally a custom URL, right? You're going to companyname.cloudplatform.com. That's your IDP discovery. The only protocol that has user discovery and has had for a long time is OpenID 2.0, right? And now its successor, OpenID Connect. In OpenID 2.0, you could always say both your username and your IDP. In SAML, you can't do it at all. You cannot send a user hint in SAML. What you can send is a user demand. You can send an authentication request that says, under every circumstance, you will authenticate Pamela Dingle right this second or die, literally. Those are your choices, right? If you send a subject in a SAML authentication request, you return a token for that user or you die. So being able to do this is kind of new, right? And I will highlight this. So the people who've done a ton of work on this is the NCommon project, if some of you are familiar with that. So they have a trust framework with, 800, 1,000 universities, right? So when you say discovery and you want to try to tell, a library application that, where you're from, a drop-down of 800 values is not good. It's not good user experience, right? So this is sort of the old generation. It's what we've gotten used to. The other one that you'll be familiar with is NASCAR, right? NASCAR is the idea of you get the brightly colored pictures that tell you where you should be going to authenticate. The problem with NASCAR is it's essentially bigoted identity in that there's a preference towards certain identity providers. So if you only support 6 identity providers, you can put up pretty pictures for them. But if your identity, the identity provider you actually want to have a relationship with is in Russia or in China, right, or just out of those 6, there's nothing you can do, right? So that's the problem with NASCAR.
Well, you really shouldn't be using an ID provider from Russia anyway.
Well, if you're Russian, that is a North American view. That's right. Clearly, you should all be using Facebook to log in. All right. So here's what the industry is going towards, and they're moving towards choosers, right? So a chooser is essentially not a stateless discovery mechanism, right? The magic is it's not stateless. Yay for not stateless. So it's not one size fits all. We're not going to put up 6 things and assume that our entire population can actually respond to those 6 pretty pictures. Instead, we're going to pre-register things that are useful to that person into some kind of repository, and then we're going to persist that information so that the next time it comes up, you can say, oh yeah, that's me. You recognize yourself, right? So this is common in lots of places. It's common now in operating systems, right? You got an Apple, you see it every day when you log in. You got, Google really has pioneered a lot of this work, right? They have taken the use case, the pain point of multiple, family members all using the same browser, and they've figured out how to do context switching and have your whole family listed on that chooser list, right? And then, even Android is in on it, right? You see a pretty picture, you click the pretty picture, it's you. And Netflix is also jumping on that bandwagon. So this is already, I would say, an established pattern, the pattern of a chooser.
I'd say Microsoft has done it for a while.
Microsoft has also done it for a while, yep. All of the operating systems, I say, would, and I'm sure there are others, right, who have also done this as well. But here's the cool thing for us, right? It's one thing to write yourself a proprietary chooser, right? Because anyone can write things. It's just a list of people with some pictures and you click it, right? We're not talking open heart surgery here. But here's the cool thing, I think, for identity is that OpenID Connect has institutionalized this, right? Has put it right into their code so that you can send a login hint, right? And the cool thing about that is it doesn't matter where that login hint comes from, right? So it could come from a chooser, right? It could come from some session context. It could come from a previous cookie, right? It could be deduced out of thin air. It could be that you just walked into your home Wi-Fi zone, and that home Wi-Fi zone recognizes your MAC address, right? Who knows? Doesn't matter, but it can be passed back to the identity provider at the time of authentication request, and the identity provider can choose to give you a better experience as a result, right? Continuation, right? So you've got a previous session. All you have to do is pass back the session you just had that's expired and trade it for a session that's brand new, right? And all of a sudden, you've got this beautiful cycle from a usability perspective, right? I know where you were, and I know where you want to go. Doesn't get better, right? And here's the thing. For the curmudgeons in the group who are thinking, oh my God, we're leaking data, right? That's as far as you get, right? When a hint goes in, even the hint could be this long, and it could have all sorts of nuclear secrets in it, but it's probably only going to take you to this screen, right? Or maybe a fingerprint, a thumb swipe, or something else. Okay, that's information the user had to type in anyway. All right, so in conclusion, I have some advice, and that advice is find the bug-eyed fish face. Think about bug-eyed fish face in your enterprise, and think about whether you're ready to stop doing a stranger flow every single time and start branching into a friendly flow. If you can start that friendly flow, then you have options to tune it and get better and learn. And you're going to learn from the positive side of when it works. You're going to learn from the negative side when it doesn't. And that's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.